Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here to review Berserk from 1997, episodes 1 through 4. So, I had taken the last few days away because my pneumonia came back. So, during that time, all I was just kind of left to do was just kind of do a bit of research on topics. And there was some stuff that I wanted to come back to also. There was some stuff that I kind of looked up for the first time and I've never heard of certain things. So after I go on and after I get back into the list of things that I committed to saying that I was going to try and pull off a review of at some point in the near future, yeah, like I just wanted to come back also to just do something easy, and I felt that Berserk might be it. So I had gone on to specifically watch a movie of Berserk, and then when Berserk came to my attention yet again while I was randomly watching something, I would eventually just go into a Google thing of like, okay, what is the best way to watch Berserk? Because I'd watched the movie of it, but I'm like, okay, but what could Google tell me? And so Google kind of pointed me out a series, and I'm like, okay, let's check this out. I can kind of find whatever I want most of the time. So let's watch this. If you were to go on and want that same ability too, if you want to go on and watch endless amounts of anime, I will go out of my way to explain that to you. There is, if you were to have a mobile device, a Google Play Store, and have the ability to find an app called Hanime, that's anime with an H, you yourself can be able to go on and watch Berserk any kind of way of which that you want to watch Berserk, because it seems to have most of or all of the things available for you to check out. Check out an app called Hanime for however long that is actually going to last, exist, and what have you. Check that app out. So without a doubt, you yourself could go on and watch endless anime without any kind of subscription to try to avoid any of those kind of other apps of which that would make you subscribe for anything. Unless you have Crunchyroll anyways, then you do you. Anyways, so Berserk. Berserk, I think, has some really interesting characters and has mainly, I would say, a sword and sorcery kind of thing to it, but there is a little supernatural bits of things here and there. But it's mostly like sword play and like it does from time to time remind me very much of The Witcher, or even stuff like Arnold's Conan the Barbarian or Conan the Destroyer. I'd also just watched some Demon Slayer recently, and I was like, okay, like it kind of made me just kind of miss sword and sorcery stuff, and I'd watched this at some point in the past. So I'm like, man, like let's look into this. So for Berserk, we have some interesting characters, like I had mentioned, and the first one we end up getting introduced to is like this drifter character that takes all these bounties, and he is a character known as Guts. Guts is to be a character that comes into a town, kills a ton of people, and then leaves. He's that guy. So, and I like the simplicity of him. Like, I like the fact that this guy is to be driven to take down these people, and he's not going to stop until it happens. And I thought that was cool. So Guts has this fighting skill, has his fighting strategy. His strategy is attack. Endlessly attack until the person dies or gives up. That's Guts' plan. And I'm like, okay, like that actually is like brilliant. So he just wails on people as hard as he possibly can until they give up. And he is just stronger than everyone else. And that's his strategy. I'm like, man, that actually is freaking smart. Because when you look at it, when you're not really good at a video game, what you end up doing is you just basically hit all the buttons, especially if you're playing a fighting game. You just hit all the buttons until you can just eventually figure stuff out. But yeah, you go on and you just hit all the buttons until you're just like, man, like I'm actually doing really good at this game, surprisingly. Uh, because you're just endlessly hitting things to where your opponent just can't have time to react. So that's the goal. That's the whole thing. So, and hence why they have things like combos. So we have Guts that goes on and he goes from town to town collecting these bounties, even having certain people asking him like, well, hey, how about you just become a permanent knight for me? And Guts is like, no, our contract is over, goodbye. And when the guy's like, wait a minute, it's like, do not touch him. Like, he's not a guy that likes to be touched. So like there's some just kind of Mad Max and thing about this guy. It's very interesting. As well as also the Witcher and the Conan Barbarian kind of feel of this character, as well as also just kind of the swordplay of which that I'm just really enjoying of this powerhouse like character. So Guts goes on and just goes against these seemingly even unbeatable scenarios. We have this Snake Baron character that comes in. It's like, oh, well, you should not go on and be beaten of me because you are just a mortal man. And we, of course, would go on to have Guts is like, well, hold my beer. Like, I'll be back in a minute. Maybe less than that. So, Guts goes on and eventually slays all kinds of foes. But then eventually, there is at one point where he is just stymied. And that ends up bringing him to a character known as Griffith, who has these characters who are Casca and eventually all these other characters that eventually I will have a character list in front of me that eventually I'll have to say who their names are at some certain points. And eventually Guts will be forced to need to be part of a group because he is a lone wolf. He does everything by himself. Whenever there's a situation where he shouldn't be handling things by himself, he handles it anyways. But also, when Guts is with this group, he is to be strangely off-put by how efficient this group actually is. To where he's just like, man, this is so weird. So, Guts goes on and eventually is to face off against Griffith, hence leading him and joining into this gang, or this band of hawks. And he fights him and goes on to not only lose once, but lose more than once. And Guts is to have fought a group before getting to Griffin, as well as also finding a guy right before that. So yeah, so Guts is to be this guy that just has endless stamina or endurance or whatever. So I'm like, God dang, man, yeah. Like, they thought they were going to get the jump on Guts and be like, oh yeah, like, we're going to take this guy because he's freaking tired. Yeah, no. Not this guy. Not this one. Not the way this guy absurdly trains. Or not the way that this guy from childhood is beholding this big, huge, massive sword, which we find out in his younger years. So, and he continues as he grows older to get a bigger and bigger sword. Tori has to go to this blacksmith to get this big, huge, awkward sword that he just wrecks foes with for how just big it is. How he cuts horses in half. That's how strong this guy is. So Guts goes on and faces off against Griffith, And after Griffith just takes his time to figure Guts out, like, oh, he's just a guy that just wails on people until they die, or just like, what the fuck? Yeah. So Griffith, it seems, regardless of who he is facing, is to be a guy that just takes his time and figures out the perfect shot. Like, this guy is to be like a sniper from a long ways away planning his shot, but he's right there in front of your face. Like, so, like, the metaphor is just kind of estranged of trying to figure out who Griffin really is. Um, so Griffith goes on to stymie Guts, where he's like, man, who is this guy? I have easily so beaten everyone else on this earth, but this guy, for some strange reason, he has got me stymied. So this forces a partnership between these two characters, and Griffith is to say, like, yeah, Guts, like, I'm seeing so much potential in you, and eventually I will become a king, and I have this egg of the king that I'm going to show you this necklace off because it looks cool, right? And we're going to go on and become the best of friends, and I'm going to find a place for you to die. Like, that's, I guess, Griffith's plan. So, and he means that, I guess, in a very, like, nice way, not in a weird, creepy, evil way. So, that the two of them are going to retire and they're going to be neighbors or whatever in this weird community until their timely demise. So Griffith takes on Guts and sees him as an investment, and they go on this counter raid agenda, and they free this castle from these bit of rogue knights, and eventually, or this rogue camp of people, and we would then have Griffin realizing how Guts is to just be such a loner that Griffin has to go back to save him from himself. And here's where Griffin goes on and tells Guts about, like, well, hey man, I'm investing in you. So I'm going to have to save you even from yourself, so that way I can save my investment because you're now a part of us. So yeah, I'm definitely going to keep you alive. So, which is kind of ironic also, because Guts, like, he always goes alone, and Guts ends up getting told by one of the characters, one of the small little kids. His name is kind of a strange. I think it's like Pickert or something like that. It's or Rickert, some strange name like that. And he goes on and eventually tells Guts how he's to be this commander, and like, this guy, this guy really, a guy that's still going on and just wanting to figure out Griffith and probably wanting to still plot a way of killing him. Yeah, let's just keep trusting that guy. Because, yeah, that's in the back of his mind what he's thinking. Also, there are people that do not go on and do not trust Guts. They just don't. They want him dead. And so, yeah, like, I'm sure there's a lot of interesting things that are going to be playing out within the show. And also, We have Casca. Casca is a character that is be brought in, and she ends up getting to the one point where she's laying down naked next to Guts. And it's like, well, I was only doing it because Griffith told me. And I'm sure it's like, well, yeah, Casca, I'm sure you didn't enjoy it either. You enjoyed it. Just admit it. Yeah, you loved rubbing up against that guy's body. Come on. Yeah, I know that Guts and Casca, they're gonna end up together. It's going to happen in the show. Um, because eventually, from watching the movie, yeah, I know they end up together. So I'm like, okay, all right. So we're just kind of seeing the romance kind of bloom here. And it's weird because eventually Casca is punching this guy in the chest, saying that, man, I would have left you for dead. But I liked rubbing up against your body. Yeah. Just admit it, Casca. Also, this show doesn't have enough male nudity in the show, even if it doesn't make sense. Uh, let's go on and just have male nudity or the equivalent of it, because we're kind of seeing them as Ken dolls and Barbie dolls. And I'm like, really? Like, I guess that's your kind of censorship. But yeah, like the guys from Belt Down, Ken dolls. I'm like, really? Like, we can't? They got nothing down there? Nothing? All right. Okay. Um, and so we at some points also in Berserk, for me, get all confused. Like the whole like nightmare things of like, okay, who's the young kid supposed to be? I'm like, oh, that's a young Guts, because I was getting it confused with Casca. I'm like, because Casca and a young Guts look the freaking same. I'm like, why is Gutska or Casca talking to Gambino? I'm like, what's going on there? And then I kind of find out, oh no, it's a young Guts, and that's his father technically. And like so much about this also kind of remind me of kind of like a Braveheart in some ways. It's kind of just it's really rather interesting. So so much about this show was just kind of just interesting to me, but also it was very plain and simple. I guess I just kind of needed that, I guess, right now. But as far as a grading system goes, I will say that Berserk is okay. It's a solid okay. Like, I wasn't to find anything profound about this. I was like, oh, like, man, do they kind of cheese it with these bit of episodes after the first episode where they have to kind of really recap things, as well as also when they end it, they have just that one like freeze frame, like, hey, tune in next time, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Um, but yeah, but I guess this was kind of done in the late '90s, so I guess that's just the way that they approach this. At least also this show actually did have a theme song that was kind of interesting, but I didn't watch it every single time. Like, yeah, I know it's kind of stupid. You could probably have skipped that, or it doesn't really matter. But from time to time, I just watch also the theme song of the show just to either find it catchy or also to get something from the intro that I could probably look forward to somewhere in the show, or also to just kind of get some visuals out of it. So I'm like, okay, cool. So with that said, I think it's about that time to just push on into full on spoilers, because I've been talking for about 20 minutes about the show, and I was very mid about it. But yeah, in all brutal honesty, like, I'd already kind of seen a movie of this. So when going into this show, I was like, okay, yeah, uh, like I can see why people could be attracted about this. We'd have Guts with like this bow and arrow, or this crossbow coming from his hand. Like, he at one point had this cannon fire off of his arm, and he has quite a bit of weaponry at his disposal, making for a legit threat. And eventually, while we're seeing this character unfold, we're seeing every bit of his story, even from his past and his father, and how eventually uh, Guts' mother died, giving him childbirth. So, with that said, let's push on into full on spoilers and let's go in scene for scene, blow for blow. You know about every one of these episodes. So, I know that this part is to be like kind of long winded and to also be not as attractive as probably just me talking about these things going on here. So it's okay at the end of the day if people are to go on and kind of wrap this up after this. That's completely okay. Um, because I just like talking about these episodes in detail, anyways, because that's what I always just like to do. But with that said, again, you can go on and check out this anime on Henime. Um, that's anime with an H. You can watch a number of animes, endless, whichever you want to watch, and check all of those out. Hopefully, this thing might actually go on and hopefully do well. If not, then I'll go on and I'll just be like, okay, this is just another piece of content. At least I uploaded something today, and at least right now, I'm actually feeling pretty good. So hopefully, that will go on and have me uh, keep on a pattern, I hope, of uploading. I also, at some point, wanted to go, um, hoping that I was to feel good enough to really get back into the swing of a number of things. Uh, but also, I don't really know. I can't really tell. And I also don't want to push myself to the point where I just spiral back again. So I don't know. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to hope for the best, and hopefully we can finally kick this pneumonia thing, and I'll be fine with it, or I'll be good, and I'll just be healthy now, instead of having to deal with this for as long as I have. So, with that said, let's go into this. Let's pause this here. I'll get out my character list and my episodes, and we'll cover this. So, thank you for watching this. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Because I was trying to figure out if there was anything left for me to talk about in this bit of a review of this. Because yeah, nothing really profound about this, sadly enough. But if anything, I did like it. I did enjoy it. I would thumbs this up. I would recommend to people watching it, especially if you liked the bit of content that I've mentioned so many times now. But other than that, let's pause here because it is spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time you spoil these episodes. Let me know in the comments below what is your favorite sword and sorcery anime. Let me know what is to be your favorite anime. Maybe it's something that I have not covered yet, or maybe it's something that I have covered. Let me know in the comments below. Just anything about anime. Maybe you know some weird facto about something of Berserk. Maybe you know something about anime in general. I don't know. Just whatever you like to go on and comment, even if it's gibberish. It does help out the channel. It does help me know that people exist out there, and also it does go on and generally help out the channel. So with that said, let's pause here. Let's get to the episodes. All right, so I think there was at one point where I mentioned that Guts had I think been told by a kid that he was getting a commander thing, and that kid's name was Rickert. So evidently, I just kind of missed that name. I was like, I'm trying to pronounce it. I'm trying to put my tongue in it. I'm trying to figure out what the heck that name is. So let's cut to the beginning here. We would come to find that a blacksmith is to be carving up a massive sword that he is to be smashing away on this hammer, and we would come to find in the background is none other than Guts. We would come to transition our frame here onto this castle, a castle that has Guts making his way to it. And as he goes on to make his way to this castle, he goes into this town, and there seems to be a wagon strolling next to castle that has a number of people all just kind of on this chariot to be uh, kind of beside him. There's no importance to this, but I'm just mentioning it to set the scene here. So, because I had gone on to play things like Elder Scrolls Skyrim, my bad. I would go on to say stuff like meteries and all kinds of things instead of just like, yeah, Guts goes to this bar and because that's what this place is. It's a bar. But I'll probably say like meadery and some goofy thing that is to seemingly be in place of this time period. So we'd have this bartender that goes on and speaks to this one person at his place. And then all of a sudden this conversation is being broken by these castle guards. These castle guards thrust into this meadery, this bar, and they throw this woman onto the ground. Everybody is to pay close attention to these guards and to this woman, and they're to be told, hey, don't go on and don't say anything to them. Don't try to go on and don't help this girl out because you'll regret it because they'll kill you. So the three castle guards make their way to this table, and they're treating this woman poorly. They're grabbing her. They're basically putting their hands on her skull, forcing her to go on and be pouring these drinks to them. So these guys go on and they think that they can do whatever they want because they're castle guards. So we have this old man coming in that I believe is to be a family member of this young girl, and is trying to get these castle guards to stop what they're doing. And like, oh, stop, hey, stop doing that. And these castle guards go on and they see this old man, they trip him, and and so he gets chucked to the ground, unable to do anything. Hoping that anyone would act, and no one does. Everyone just keeps to themselves. We have one of the castle guards that goes on to tell the girl, hey, don't spill any of this wine. You're going to have to go on, and you're going to have to lick it up by your tongue, and you're going to have to wipe it clean. So don't spill any of it. And so obviously the girl goes on and is trying as best as she can to control this drink going into these cups. And one of the guards sees her with this this jug, and he forces it to spill. So the guy grabs again this girl by the head, forcing her down, forcing her to go on and lap this up like a dog, horrifically. And so she's forced with her tongue to drink in all of this wine. Then all of a sudden, the next thing we see is that same castle guard with the hand over this girl's head gets an arrow into the face and goes flying onto a wall, stuck there. All of a sudden, the rest of the castle guards going like, huh? They turn to an opened door that has none other than Guts coming into it. All of a sudden, we have the castle guards like, hey, get him! And as soon as they go on and they get out of their chairs, we have Guts, who comes with his crossbow-ish like weapon to arrow these guys down in the neck and kill all of them. All of this carnage just laying around here, and this solo blonde-haired guard is now left. The old man kind of stumbling back up, like. So we now have the one blonde-haired guard left, grabbing this girl as hostage, it seems. And we would have Guts that goes on to want to have this guard stay alive because he wants to have him give a message to Snake Baron, the guy who it seems is to be owning this part of the world, and wants to give him a message that he's coming for him, that he's coming to kill him. So Guts goes on and I believe takes an arrow and shoots it into this guy's shoulder. It's right in between here. Just kind of pops him and he goes down. Then Guts goes on and starts taking the arrow and starts pushing it into the guy's arm, and that's when he gives him the message, and then he walks away. Or no, wait. One of the guards appears back up. He's not completely dead. And Guts then chops him in half. And then, yeah, we end up seeing Guts' face. One eye open, one eye closed. So we have to assume that in the Guts timeline of things, that this must be like the oldest version of Guts, because eventually when we're seeing Guts face off against Griffith, we're seeing him as a much younger version of himself. So if anything, when we're going on, we're seeing the one-eyed Guts, that is to be like the oldest version of him, is what we have to assume here. That's, I guess, when we could really tell the different versions of Guts, because I would go on and at some, like, that would be the one thing that I would kind of get a little bit confused. I'm like, wait a minute, like, so is this the same guy? Yeah, it's the same guy, just in different time periods. Because his story kind of bounces around a little bit. So Guts leaves, and so the girl rejoins with her with the old man, with the father, and leaves the bar. And Guts leaves the bar. The next thing we see is a associate that I don't know was the same castle guard guy, but it was someone that was to be giving a message to this minister. This minister goes on and is to be informed of Guts coming for the Snake Baron. And so both this minister and this guard, this knight, are both talking here. And then eventually, the Snake Baron is being informed about what's going on. The Snake Baron, once he hears this bit of news, he's kind of happy about it, because this Snake Baron just immediately assumes that he's going to beat this guy, because Guts goes on and tells this guard, hey, tell him the Black Knight is coming for him, or the Black Swordsman. He should know exactly what that means. And then when he's told, oh yeah, the Black Swordsman, he's coming for you, then the Snake Baron is like, oh yeah, I know exactly what is coming for me then. So this guy that I'm calling the Snake Baron, I know also has somewhere else an actual name somewhere. Because I know that there's some of these things that have seemingly different names for people when I was to look them up. that's in more detail. I'm just going to go by what list I have here because, if anything, um, the guy who goes on and wears the snake armor, like, it's better to just call him Snake Baron than it is to call him by that other name. It's, to me, less confusing. So my apologies if there's any confusion here. So the next thing we see is Guts going into the woods somewhere during the moon, and he's sleeping. As he's going on and sleeping, he dreams, and around him is to be this very pinkish like area that is to be floor to ceiling of skulls. And all of a sudden within the skulls there are to be a number of presences of these kind of dark and creepy-ish like characters. We'd come to find that one of them is Void, one of them is Slan, one of them is to be Ubik, and Conrad. Slan, yeah, Slan is the woman. Void or God King is the character that looks just kind of, his features are kind of much more bigger and harder to exactly define right now. This character that I call Void, because it's easier to just say that. But that's the characters we're seeing here. I had to kind of look this up in another character list that I did later, because I'm like, yeah, why aren't any of these characters on here? So we get to see like consistent flashes of these four characters, but it's not strobe lighting flashes, so don't be worried about that. It's just consistent flashes back and forth of these characters. And then all of a sudden, we then have Guts that is seeing Griffith in the background, and Guts' sword comes down. And then we cut to the minister who's with the Snake Baron at his huge long stretch of dinner table. Do you guys remember Batman 1989, the original Michael Keaton movie, where Michael Keaton and the girl in the film, they have that big huge long table, and the woman goes on and asks Bruce Wayne, is like, hey, can you pass the salt? Yeah, that huge long stretch of a table in that movie. And it's kind of funny because the girl even asks Bruce, is like, have you ever been in this room before? And he's like, yeah, I don't think I've ever been in this room before. Yeah, this doesn't look like you. Yeah, it really doesn't. Anyways, so the minister is going on from a long way off, talking to this Snake Baron about this man coming for him as he eats. And so this is the part where we have the Snake Baron who's touching his snake armor, and he's salivating at the point of a fight. So this Snake Baron has found everyone in his town at the end of usefulness. So he goes on and he destroys every one of them. Even the minister, he goes on and kills him. He puts a pike of the stake of him and kills him. Like he puts him on a wooden pike and kills him that way. I believe, from the show. So he kills everybody. He just wipes out the entire town. because at this point he just doesn't care. Because also they're trying to find Guts. They're trying to find him. They can't find him within the town. Everybody's searching for him. And so, since they can't, the Snake Baron just decides to burn down the entire town and blaze everything. We would find that the guards are to find the minister on this wooden pike, dead. And then shortly thereafter, themselves all dead and killed. Because, yeah, the Snake Baron just kills everybody. So, here is where Guts comes in. Guts comes in, and he starts laying waste to some of the Snake Baron's guards that are with him. And starts to arrow them down. And then after Guts eventually starts to run out of arrows, because eventually he'll put more in, eventually he whips out his sword. His big, huge, massive sword that goes plah onto the ground. Because of course it does. So, we find that the Snake Baron has this egg-shaped like necklace on him. And we'll come to find that very similar again with Griffith. Because Griffith will go on and find that he'll have the Egg of a King necklace. And so it seems that Guts is going on and trying to find this other necklace that looks like an egg himself, that is to be green and not red. So, Guts goes on to face off against this Snake Baron. And at first, the Snake Baron throws a spear, which of course Guts dodges. Guts, I believe, rolls out of the way and then gets more arrows into his crossbow, fires them off, and they go into the Snake Baron's chest, nailing them all in a pretty interesting circular pattern, having then the Snake Baron off of his horse. All of a sudden, the next thing we see is that the Snake Baron legitimately turns into an actual massive giant snake. And then starts with its tail hitting Guts all over the place. The Snake Baron goes on to tell Guts, there's no way a mortal man can kill me. So if anything, you are just wasting your time. But that's not going to stop Guts. Because Guts has this secret brand of which that hasn't been revealed yet, but eventually we'll come to find that the Snake Baron will find out about it. Like, oh, you have that brand. Oh, because, yeah, Guts will be like, oh, yeah, a normal mortal man can beat a who? And then he shows him the brand, and the Snake Baron's like, oh, you have that brand. Oh. So, because eventually what happens here is that the Snake Baron will take its tail and continue to thrash Guts around, hitting him onto the arm. And even though the arm has like a bunch of just tape over it anyways, and continues to just whip and hit Guts. But Guts will have this secret weapon. He'll have upon his hand this cannon that fires off this burst. And eventually, the Snake Baron goes backwards. Guts then goes on back for his sword, picks it up, and slices the Snake Baron in half. As the Snake Baron is now down on the ground, down for the count. Here's where Guts reveals his mark and how a mortal man should not have been able to defeat a guy like this. So, Guts goes on and arrows the Snake Baron into the face, like goes into his eyes, continues to hit him, and then burns him alive after that. just any horrible death that this guy could just be torturously under. And then shortly after that, Berserk goes on and obtains that egg-shaped necklace and leaves. So now we cut to Guts' past. And we come to find that Guts... I had to pause there for a minute because I had to memorize this name. Bazuso? Bazusko. Bazuso? So... Bazuso. So Guts goes on to now be a younger version of himself, and he makes his way to this castle and has this helmet on and this massive sword behind him. And there are some knights that are wanting to go on and trying to conquer Bazusko because they want the bounty. But this guy is huge and massive and twice the size of any of them. He's a behemoth. He's basically the Michelin Man for a number of you out there. Like, you guys remember Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? Like, yeah, that's how kind of, like, not Godzilla huge, but man, this guy is pretty dwarfing over people. He's like an ogre of size. So we would come to find that Guts thrusts his way with his sword to fight against Bazusko, and then they cut to credits, and then they go to the second episode, the Band of the Hawk. So the second episode starts with this castle and its doors being wrecked open, being forced open, and this knight going on and telling all of his men to just go after and pillage and what have you. So now we have all these knights against Bazusko, and I'm going to be questioning that name this entire time. Bazuso. And it's not Sko, it's So. Bazuso. And we have Bazuso that has this axe. So Guts goes on and he makes his way to Bazuso. And as he goes for his charge, he just starts wailing on Bazuso. And Bazuso doesn't understand this. And so when we finally have Bazuso that goes into this one, like he's grabbing his axe like, yeah. We have Guts that kind of just counters this guy's attack. And by the time that Guts does his final blow to hit Bazuso in the chest, Bazuso does an attack on Guts at the same time, hitting Guts in the helmet, and that could have been an attack that could have killed Guts. But Guts was just lucky. So Bazuso goes down, and Bazuso ends up asking for mercy, hoping that Guts will grant him that. And Guts won't. he's going to kill him. He's going to stab him. He's going to kill him. He's going to collect his bounty. So, as Guts walks off, we have Griffith, who's clutching at his egg-shaped necklace, and we have Corcus, who are kind of looking at one another like this guy, like, all right, because they know that this guy is going to go on and be tired, so it's like, hey, after this, like, let's go after this guy, because we know he's going to be exhausted, and he's to be the only guy that really beat that guy. Griffin is looking at Guts and like, who the heck is this guy? Who the heck is he? Like, let's get to know what his name is. Like, let's figure out where he's heading. Yeah, like, let's see if we can persuade this guy to join us. So, we have Guts that goes on and collects his bounty from one of these guards, one of these knights. And here's where the knight goes on and asks Guts, like, well, hey, like, you can go on and be a knight for me full time. Yeah, I'll definitely have a guy like you work for me. And Guts is like, no, our contract is over. Like, I want nothing to do with you. And the guy's like, wait a minute. And so he grabs onto Guts's shoulder, and Guts is like, do not touch me, and thrusts him away. And then the knight kind of just backs away, like, okay, all right, like, I won't mess with you. So Guts has no horse. He's walking on foot, which I'm like, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. Because a horse is just another mouth to feed, but then also, yeah, having this guy go on foot, it's like, yeah, like, it's the cheapest way, and plus also, like, it also is probably really gonna suck, because man, you probably need a lot of calories to eventually be on foot all the time. But anyways, we have one of the men with Corcus mention that they see Guts walking off in the distance, and so they all get up and they look at Guts walking and like, all right, hey, yeah, let's get him. And so Corcus goes on to talk to Griffith and Casca before he leaves. And we have Judea that is going on and looking at Corcus like, man, this guy's kind of making a mistake. Like, what has Corcus got himself into now? Judea is going on and asking Griffith, hey, man, like, do you think we should probably help him out? Griffin is just laying there like, whatever. Like, let's just see what happens. So, Corcus and his men with him are on horseback. So, they go on and they meet with Guts on the road. And Guts whips out his sword and starts laying these guys out, just chops them in half. There are at times when they go on and they throw their maces or they throw their chain weapons, where it's like they have the stick, and at the end of it they have these like chains that have these kind of odd like spike like devices that go and hit or try to swing and try to hit, but not Guts. So Guts just goes on and just starts annihilating and chopping these guys to size. So that all of a sudden gets the attention of all the rest of Griffith's men to be like, hey, what's going on here? We're getting a bit of a show, all right. So now we are at a point where finally Guts gets an arrow into the arm because now Casca was sent by Griffith to help him out. Casca was sent to help out Corcus out. To help Corcus out. So Guts just rips the arrow out of his arm and just starts fighting Casca. Casca gets dehorsed and unhelmeted. And then when Guts looks at Casca, he's like, wait a minute, you're a woman? So, but Guts sees Casca as like, well, hey, whoever I'm going to fight, I don't care who it is. I don't care who the gender, nothing. I'm going to beat the out of anybody wholesale. I'm not holding back. So eventually when Casca starts fighting, she's like, God dang, this guy's strong. He's strong, like he's freaking smart. So Casca even goes down, and here is when Griffin gets off his high effing horse and finally decides that he's going to appear here. Griffith appears in his weird, strange hawk-like helmet, which eventually I had to go on to see this like Phantom of the Opera kind of weird, goofy movie, same helmet of a character. So Griffith appears with this helmet on, and Guts is not taking any time. He's like, okay, another one of you. So Guts goes on to see Griffith, and here's where things start to change. This kind of fighting style, like, continues to start Xing swords as if this is like Highlander Endgame. Because eventually there's this one move in Highlander Endgame where they go on and they do this weird, goofy, like, Xing of the swords where there's like a sword behind here and there's a sword behind here. And, like, this is the definitive, like, hey, either one of the two of these people are going to live here. It's either going to be the guy that can go on and be able to do this, or it's going to be a guy that, like, yeah, so whoever is faster is going to be the one that wins here. So Griffith is somehow, with his weird sniper stabbing ability, is to slow this all down and figure out how to strike Guts in a way that is to be just right, like right by his rib cage, somewhat in there. And so Guts goes down, and they think like, oh yeah, like Griffith has taken him down. All he did was one hit him. He's one punch man, I guess Griffith is. So Guts goes down, and Corcus is like, yeah, like, of course Griffith is gonna beat him. Yeah. So Griffith is telling Casca, because she's right by him, hey, get a little bit distance between you and I, because Guts gets right back up and then falls over. And Griffith is just looking at Guts looking at him. It's like, God dang it, man. Well, at least you're stubborn. At least you're like, at least you won't give up. So I'll give you that credit. So here's where we have that a strange dream here. So we have a young Guts. He's dreaming. He's dreaming about this weird, huge, massive hand that is coming after him. And Guts has this sword. He slices into the hand. And there is this big, huge rage monster that appears here. I have no idea exactly what this thing is. But then shortly after that, Guts is talking to his father. The father that eventually we'll find out in other episodes had trained him, and then eventually Guts had a fight with his own father. Because there's a whole buildup of that. Because eventually, Ambino will eventually look weak and will be bandaged up. But we'll get to that eventually. So, Guts is all of a sudden seeing his father just in the buff, just Ken Barbie styling it up, and so Guts talks to Ambino, and it's like, well, hey, like, help me now, you're my father, and Ambino's like, but you killed me. You killed me. There's no way I can go on and I can help you now. And then all of a sudden we see the blood spray, and so it's like, wait a minute, what the heck? Like, who is this guy? Why is he dead? What? Huh? And so they explain it in episodes later, and I'll explain this now. So at some point when Ambino is to be frustrated with his son because his wife had died in childbirth, and now he's forced to have to take care of this kid that he never really wanted, or he never really wanted to take care of. So Ambino was hoping that this kid would just die in battle, and he didn't. He just kept on living. So Ambino was to finally just say, well, hey, like, in his mind, hey, if he won't die in battle, then he'll die by my hand. And so the two of them fight because Ambino just continues to just say, like, you should have died instead of Shisu. Shisu, ah! My wife's dead now. So eventually, within that battle, Guts does go on and have to force to slay down his own father, because otherwise this would have been a way shorter story. So that is the whole reasoning for why Ambino is saying to Guts that he's dead and there's nothing he's going to do for him. So we now see this fist of blood that comes for Guts is grabbing him by the body, to where we're not seeing his Ken-like form within the ground of skulls. And this is very weird and very unusual. We see all these skulls that are surrounding Guts, like, you should have died instead of her. You should have died instead. You should have died instead. You Guts, you you run amok, you. Anyways, so we now cut to Guts, who is consistently saying, don't touch me, don't touch me, ooh, don't touch me, ooh, Casca? You can touch, no, you can't. You're going to anyways, because I'm going to find out. Because we see a moment here where Guts in his Ken Barbie style body is to be having Casca rub up against him, and supposedly she was doing it so that way it would break his fever, because eventually he became ill. And Casca was to say that Griffin is to say, like, a woman's job is to take care of a man, I guess. Stupid gender crap. So Casca was to lay up against Guts, but she enjoyed it. I hope she did. I hope she did. So the next thing we see is Guts waking up in this this horrible of a bed at this merchant camp, and he's like, hey, what like, why am I here? Like, what's going on here? He finds all these people, and eventually Casca is going on and talking to Griffith, and there's a possibility that, like, hey, yeah, this guy, like, he's gonna be one of ours. Like I'm seeing some potential in him. Yeah, like, it's a good thing we kept. It's a good thing that he's still alive. So after Casca goes on and talks to Griffith, and it's like, God, this guy, like, I wish he would have died in the middle of the night so we wouldn't have to take care of him. It's just another mouth to feed. So Casca goes on and punches this Guts guy right in his stomach as hard as she can. He goes down like a rock. Like a rock. Anyways, so And here's where Costco mentions like, man, I wish you would have died in the middle of the night. Then she walks off. I was only taking care of you because I had to, but I copped a feel. I didn't wanna, but I did it twice. I'm just trying to do something funny here, and I just trying to goof off. So here's where Judeus comes in here. I believe I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that somewhere close to right. So Judeus talks to Guts for a little bit about where he is, about he's with the band of the Hawks, to be led by Griffith. So Guts goes on and re-meets up with Griffith, and Griffith re-hands him his sword back. Like, hey man, yeah, like here's your sword, this big, huge, massive, heavy of a weapon that, like, I can appreciate that you have this, but yeah, definitely wouldn't be something that I would wield. It's too heavy for me. But here you go. So we have a number of people all looking at Guts cockeyed because like, like, Griffin just sees this guy as his new favorite. We don't like him. So a lot of people are laughing. A lot of people are just upset with uh, with Guts, and kids like Rickert are going on like, yeah, he's gonna be the new one of us, yeah. And Corcus is like, shut up, kid. Like, I'm not gonna treat him as one of our own. He just got on. He just killed some of our own. So like, I'm not gonna forget that. So we now cut to this eagle flying into the air, and we now have Griffith and we have Guts that are talking to one another. And Griffith talks about like, well, yeah, when you fought that big, huge, massive of a guy before, the Bazuso, yeah, like immediately when I saw you there, I was like, this guy has some potential. So as the further and further the both of them start talking, eventually Guts is not happy that he had lost before, and he's gonna go on and whip out his sword to challenge him again now. Griffith is saying to Guts like, well, hey, like, I'd be happy to go on and fight you in your prime. Like, I'll be happy to wait till your wounds actually heal before we do this again. But Guts, of course, is adamant, so Griffith's like, okay. So he whips out his sword. They fight yet again. Casca is off in the distance, just kind of watching. And she even has, like, her sword kind of in her hands. It's sheathed. It's still kind of like, she's like, okay, like, what's gonna happen here? And this is to be an honorable fight. So eventually, when Corcus and the rest of the Griffin men come in, Casca is to tell all of them, no, you don't conflict with this fight. Like, they're gonna go on and they're gonna duke it out, and whatever happens, happens. But Griffith's got this. Like, don't get involved. So we cut to another freeze frame, and that ends the episode. We end up having to have a whole recap of, again, we have Guts that whips out his sword, challenges Griffith, and then we get to the first battle episode. So we again have them both X their swords, and Griffith knocks Guts down. And he slices him on the arm. Guts gets back up, and Griffith starts slicing Guts down quite a bit from the arms and from the legs, to where blood is just starting to splatter everywhere. We get this huge image of Guts' face, and like splatters of blood are gonna go into his face. Guts is looking at Griffith, and Griffith just has blood just all over the place, all over him, like it's flying into him. Like, you know how in space astronauts goes on and they're drinking like liquids in a very like magician like way. They go on and they spurt the liquid and then they catch it in their mouth. Yeah, they're doing that kind of stuff here. Um, they go on and they take the M&M and they, oh, they're doing that kind of stuff. Kind of with the visuals here. It's a kind of a very slow motion, like seeing this blood just hit these guys. So at one point, Guts is to dig his sword into the ground and fling it back into the air to hope that there is some dirt or some grass that goes on and blinds into Griffith's eye, the visual we see here. A little bit of rocks, too. And Griffith goes on to jump on top of Guts' sword and then takes his sword and puts it to Guts' face. And it's like, aha, I've beaten you. There's no way you can maneuver now. Checkmate. And so Guts goes on and does the only strategy he has left. He goes on and he's basically just chomping down on Griffith's sword. He's eating his sword. Not fully, but basically. So, considering teeth are a very strong muscle, chomping down on this thing is actually a pretty brilliant move. So, since Guts now has the control of this sword, it now just gets to the point between these characters to where now they fall, and they fall going down this rocky bit of mountain here. As soon as they fall, we have the two of them that are now without swords, and they're just beating one another to death. We see Guts, he's continuing to punch and kick Griffith here. Eventually, Griffith goes down. Griffith is now getting a taste of his own blood, and Guts asks him, hey, how does it taste? So, but here's the thing. Griffith not only can school Guts in a sword, he can also do pretty well in combat, it seems. Griffith goes on to obtain Guts' arm in a, I would say, arm breaker or arm bar like fashion. Goes on to tell Guts, hey, give up or or lose your arm. I'm gonna dislocate your shoulder. What would you like? Guts, of course, being Guts, is not going to give up here. So Griffith is happy to break this guy's shoulder. But then after that, the fight is over at that point. Guts cannot get back up. He's too wounded. So Griffith is just say, hey, like, all right, you're going to work with me. I'll nurse you back to health. You're going to work with me. Like, you didn't give up, but it doesn't matter. You're mine anyways. I own you. Not in those words, but it's like, yeah, you're working with me now. So Kazov in the distance, kind of like, meh, like with her black eyes. Because, yeah, Guts has to mention how black her eyes are. So now we have this castle that is going on and seeing this camp nearby, and they're fairly worried about this camp. They're going on and they're thinking, like, it seems this camp has these raiders, and they're probably going to try and they're going to come after our castle at some point. But, like, well, there is that whole, like, band of hawks that might be able to save us, right? We're going to be fine, right? Hopefully, yeah. Hope for the best. So, we now have Guts that is in another tent, sleeping on this bed. And he's thinking about Griffith, and he's like, God dang it, that guy, he dislocated my shoulder, and he's beaten me twice now. God, why can't I figure him out? God dang it, why can't I beat him? So, like, he's just a Rubik's Cube that he just has to figure out, and he won't stop until he gets all the sides. So, now we have Corcus with the number of men that are around him outside of the tent. They're all saying, yeah, that Guts guy, he's probably sleeping, right? Might as well take a good benefit of that and kill him while he sleeps. And the funny thing of it is, Guts isn't sleeping. Like, he's going on and he's overhearing this whole conversation. And he's getting his sword out, preparing for them to come in so he can take them down. Casca overhears this and takes a sword to Corcus and tells him, yeah, no, you're not going to kill this guy. You're not going to do it. So, after Casca goes on and does that, Guts gets out of his tent, and it feels like there's a moment here where it's like, hey, you're welcome. Is what really Guts should be saying, but he doesn't. So, Casca walks away here, and Guts goes back to his tent. And there's a part of him that, like, probably is never going to really sleep. So, Guts has a sword on him, and we see his helmet. So, Griffith is now going on and going to go up against this camp and take these guys out. So, Griffith is talking to all of his men. They're all in armor. And Griffith is calling out what everyone is going to do to take out this other camp. And so he goes on and tells Guts, hey, you're going to be the one that's going to be basically the rear. You're going to be behind everybody, and if anybody flanks us, if anybody comes from behind and tries to get at us, you're going to be the one that takes them out. And Gus is like, man, this is like a big responsibility, and everybody's like, really, that guy? Like, even Gus is like, really, I'm the guy? So everybody's like, man, yeah, like, why him of all people? But also, like, we have people that are thinking like, well, wait a minute, like, Griffith must think really highly of Guts, that it's like that's the reason why he told him to do that. So yeah, like, a lot of people, I think, at this point should get really just ticked off at this guy and just hope that he somehow just dies during this battle. Just prays to whoever they pray to that, yeah, he gets killed here, he gets his. So we start off with Griffith's men making their way through this lake here with their horses to get to this camp. And Guts the whole time is mentioning about like, yeah, like the weather is so horrible here, it's kind of masking any of the sounds we can make. So man, this is really effective. And we have this one guard of this camp that's like, man, it's so cold out here. I don't want to go in and I don't want to really be the guard of this whole thing. Oh, this sucks. Like he's just in this kind of cloak and he's just like miserable. And then all of a sudden he sees these torches. He's like, wait, is that somebody? And then all of a sudden Griffith and his men on horseback come trudging in. And this guy grabs his spear, is like, enemies, enemies. And so they slice and they take this guy down. And Griffith tells the men to take the torches to the camps to burn them down. So all the enemies start to get out of their tents. People get to arms, and now they're chasing after the band of hawks. So the men opposite of the hawks, I'll just call them the knights because that'll be easier. The knights go on and they're chasing after. I'll probably just call them the raiders because that would probably make sense. The raiders go on to be right on the heels of Guts. They're using their crossbows, firing around Guts. He's dodging arrows. If you pause it just right, you can actually see the arrows. So, Guts tells Rickard, the guy who's to be kind of like the last one behind everybody, hey, you get going, like, you don't look back, you don't think of me, just keep going. Because Guts is going to go on and take all these guys out without him. So, Rickard just keeps on his horse as fast as he can. And Griffith's men all make their way back to the castle. It's like, oh, okay, I guess we just took down all these men. We burnt down the camp. Like, if anything, like, we have had success this day. And then all of a sudden, we have Rickard that comes to, it's either Rickard or Judeus. Or Judea. I'm not quite sure which of them. Exactly. I think it's Rickard. So, because both of them are just really small and really young. I think it is Judea, because Judea has those like freckles on his nose. I can kind of see his haircut. So yeah, so this is Judea. My bad. Both of them look the exact freaking same, in my opinion. So Judea goes on to mention to Griffith, hey, yeah, like, Guts is still out there facing off against all those knights. So, yeah, this isn't over. And Griffith is like, oh, let's get back on our horse. Let's get after him because he's my investment. So, Guts is now riding off on horseback against these raiders, and his horse goes down because of an arrow. Guts rolls out of the way of any real harm there, and then is now having these horses with raiders on them making their way to him. And all of a sudden we see these arrows go flying into these guys' necks. They go down. Here's Griffith that comes on his horse grab my hand. If you guys had gone on to see like either the Jacksepticeye or the Markiplier, no, wait, no, 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 no. The origin of it was Game Grumps. They were doing Heave Ho, and they would consistently be like both one another, like grab my hand, grab my hand. And immediately when I saw that, I just got a good chuckle because I remember that. Grab my hand, my hand. So Griffith goes on to have Guts grab his hand, thrust it onto the horseback. This reminded me of like some Lord of the Rings like bullshit. I think there's like Legolas or Gimli that had to do that, where Legolas is like, "Hey, grab my hand," and then thrusts onto the horse, and the two of them start killing foes. So now they start riding back, and Guts is telling Griffith, "Hey, man, you're stupid. Now both of us are on this horse. It's gonna be too heavy. Like, why did you come back for me?" And so they continue on fighting. And by the time Griffith makes their way back to the castle, there is all of a sudden all these cannons that go firing off to kill all the raiders. And so now both Griffith and both Guts can make their way back to the castle and like, huzzah, yeah, we won, yeah. So everyone goes on to their tents and starts drinking and being merry. But Guts, he's just kind of off to the side on this very top of this castle, just having his sword in his chest and just thinking about things. So we have both Rickard and we have Jadaeus with a huge, massive guy. I believe his name is like Pippin or Pippet, Big Pippin. Uh, it's some goofy name like that, Pippin. Yeah, he's a Lord of the Rings character. Uh, Jadaeus and Rickard talk to Guts, and they're telling him, "Hey, you're going to join in on the party. You're going to be one of us, whether you like it or not." And so Pippin grabs Guts, drags him to the party. He's like hauling him by his chest and like just dragging him down there. So Guts is like he's sprawled out like backwards, and he's like, "Hey, get Behemoth, get off me!" So to the point where I think Guts either punches him or elbows Pippin in the face, and his nose bleeds. But if anything, once Pippin does drop Guts, he gives him this mug or this brew, and he freaking drink. So Guts does, and so I was like, all right. So all of a sudden, the guys start surrounding Guts, and they start like giving him compliments, start appreciating him, and Griffin and Guts are like, you're one of us now. Whether you hate it or not, you're gonna be one of us. And Guts is like, just drink my. So, but we still have Corcus in the background. It's like, I still hate him. And Kaka, Casca is also kind of looking at Guts like, there's something about that guy. I copped a feel. So now we have the Hand of God, which is be the next episode. So after the whole night of drinking, and there's a bunch of barrels all around, these guys are all like hungover, like man, we slept horrible. We have Guts. He's back at his spot again with his sword in his chest, and Jadaeus goes on and starts talking to him, and as the further and further they have this conversation between one another, we have Casca that breaks it up, and so Guts goes on and he meets with Griffith. Griffith is to be bare butt naked and he's by this well, and he's thrusting this bucket over his body to try to like just basically the equivalent of showering. It's this era of showering. So Guts is looking at Griffith all in the buff, and so Griffith is to try and have fun with Guts, and it's like, hey man, how about like you finally clean yourself off? So he thrusts this water of bucket at Guts, and of course Guts ends up getting upset. So they're taking buckets to one another and just getting one another wet. It's the equivalent of you being in a pool, and since you don't like somebody, you're just gonna smash them with water. Just hit them with as much water as you can, because that's a stupid cliche thing to always do when you get in a pool. Like, hey, I'm gonna hit you with water. Hey, I'm gonna hit you with water, because that's the stupid thing that everyone does. So finally, as the back and the forth continues to happen here, Guts finally goes on and hits Griffith with one last barrel of water. Like, now we're even. And so finally, here's where Guts notices Griffith's egg necklace, and it's like, something's weird about that necklace. And Griffith immediately just takes it off of himself, this necklace, and hands it to Griffith. It's like, hey, yeah, look at my weird, strange egg necklace. It's kind of strange, this Egg of the King necklace that I got. So Guts goes on and he takes this necklace, and all of a sudden there's to be an eye opening from it, and Guts is like, what the heck is that? Ugh. And Griffith's like, yeah, it's kind of ugly, right? Well, so because Griffith has this Egg of the King, that's why he goes on and immediately thinks that someday he will become one. And Guts doesn't understand that. He's like, I'm sorry, Griffith, you're not royalty. Like, who's gonna make you a king? Like, this makes no sense. So, but if anything, here's where Griffith's like, yeah, I'm gonna be king one day, and you're gonna be with me, and like I'm gonna give you a place to die, and and I'll treat you good, and you're my investment, and so anyways, so we then push on here and have Griffith and his men make their way to this castle, and then cut to a younger Guts in battle with his father, Ambino. Guts is to be handed this, or Guts is to be supposedly be giving Ambino this spear, but Guts is like, huh? And so he's to be given Ambino this spear too late, and it's like, hey man, like, kind of don't be in the way. So Ambino hands Guts this sword that's too big for him, and there are people in the background kind of heckling Guts and like, hey, how about you should get a sword your size? And Ambino's like, well, hey, we don't have swords his size, and we never will. So get used to the weight. So Ambino fights Guts to the point of just taking him down and hurting him. And Guts goes down to the ground with blood on his lip. And then we cut to more time passing. Ambino is to look at a much more armored Guts, and he's a little bit older. So Guts ends up getting put in the fight here with these men, and Guts takes down one person, but then eventually, when a second one comes, he takes a strike to the back uh, by one of these mace chained weapons. Kind of just slaps him down. And Bino comes in, slays the guy who had knocked down his son, and then picks up, or then goes on to like kind of ridicule his own son of like, hey, like just because you took one person down, like pay attention, like just don't celebrate that you took. Yeah, just keep always on the ball. So Guts eventually ends up going on to have success, and he gets a reward. And so he gives his money to his father, and his father takes everything but one coin and throws it back at him. So eventually there is yet another battle. But this time around, it doesn't go on and go Ambino and Guts' way. There's cannons to be brought in, and Ambino is to be caught off guard, and he gets blasted. Ambino is now in this chair, wrapped in bandages, and Guts is not injured, comes to his father, and it's like, hey, I got a good bit of coin, and Ambino hits him. He goes on like, hey, get meat for my dog, because all I care about is my dog more than I do you. Guts leaves, and there's some kind of heckling in the background, like, yeah, hey, yeah. Ambino hears those heckling. It's like, oh man, like, so Ambino gets angry. So Ambino in the middle of the night goes on to make his way to Guts with his sword and fights Guts. Because again, it's the whole problem of like, yeah, your mother should have lived and you should have died, but she didn't, so I have to take care of you. I'm forced to take care of you. So Guts doesn't want to go on and fight his father, but he's forced to. Ambino goes on and slices Guts' nose, so that's why he has that mark across his nose. We see it in later years. As Ambino forces Guts down to the ground, we have Guts that is forced to get his sword, and he stabs his own father in the chest. There's blood, of course, soaking from the bandages. So Ambino falls over. He falls on Guts, and there are people that are now coming into the tent, finding out, hey, Ambino had been killed. How did that happen? How could he be dead now? Like, Guts, was this you? Could it have been somebody else? You're the only one here, so it must have been you. You killed your own father. So these men take their sword to Guts, and Guts runs out of the camp, jumps onto a horse, and starts riding. The only problem is, Guts is to be outnumbered here. And all these guys are going on and saying, hey, you can't ride forever. Like, you're too outnumbered. We're going to get to you. So the men start whipping out these crossbows and firing on to Guts. One of the arrows hit into Guts' spine, or in the, like right in the center of his back. Guts goes falling off of the horse, rolling onto this rocky mountainside, and the guys following after Guts assume that there's no way he could have survived that fall. The next thing we see, it's nighttime, middle of the night. Guts is now staring at the moon. Of course he's still alive, because of course he is. And Guts is now bleeding from the side of his chest with his arrow. So Guts, now in the moonlight, he's to be like as pale could be. I don't know if it's because of the darkness or it's because of the blood loss. Don't know. Either way, this a blood, this a blood, this a blood here, this a red stuff. You got all red on you. This blood attracts all these wolves, and now Guts is to assume here. It's like, well, I guess this is the way I die. If this is how I'm going to go down, then I guess this is going to be it. So Guts then goes down after slicing a wolf in the chest, gets back up, cries out. Then the next thing we see is Guts with Griffith's people making their way to this castle. And the next thing we see is a battle won by Griffith and Guts. And Griffith is holding out his hand to Guts, like, hey, yeah, you're still alive. All right. So the two of them are enjoying a sunset. Griffith is looking on, doing a bit of monologue, finishing up this bit of episode here. And a little bit more. We have Guts that is kind of near this bit of water, and he ends up getting tripped and he ends up falling into the water by Rickard. That is to go on and tell Guts, hey, yeah, just letting you know you're going to be the commander of the Hawks. Yeah, there's this kind of wooden little plank that, because he's right in this moat. It's not a lake, it's a moat. Because there's this bridge here, and then there's this moat. And so Guts just thought it was interesting to just be by this little area that is to be of this moat. This little gap of water between the castle and this bridge and watery area. Anyways, so Rickard ends up getting helped, or Rickard ends up helping Guts back out of the water as Casca looks on. And now we see these dragon knights that are facing off against these knights. And so, like, oh man, these dragon knights were being overwhelmed. I'm hoping somebody's going to help us, right? All of a sudden, we have Guts come with his horse, drudging in with Griffith and his men. So it's like, oh, they're going to save us. Oh, heaven preserves. Oh, yeah. So we have Guts that goes on and starts slaying some of the men, and they cut to credits right after that. So with that said, that kind of in some, like, this took a really long time compared to all the other reviews, which is strange because it should have been a lot easier. I definitely was nowhere near perfect about all this, and I cut through a lot of the dialogue. I really just think that it's because that I don't have the dialogue just in front of me. It's kind of what's hurting me. Because I used to have at certain points where I'd have these Cliff Note things and the dialogue would be in front of me. I don't have that anymore. So it's kind of really whatever I can remember, whatever the dialogue is. is whatever I can remember. So I kind of repeat everything, or I kind of just like, is this here? Is this here? Because it's really hard to remember 4 episodes of dialogue. Uh, but yeah, because I can't. There's like eventually this app that I would normally go on and do these reviews on, they all of a sudden got updated, and then that update would basically be that I'm not getting any more subtitles anymore at the bottom of the screen of things. So I'm like, yeah, so I'm gonna have to just guess what the dialogue is, but at least I'll have the images of what's going on. Um, but it's just not as obviously as crisp as it used to be. So a lot of times I'm just kind of hoping I can remember as much as I can when I'm watching these things, or otherwise, yeah, I'm gonna just spew out stuff like this where it's just not as good as I want it to be, but it just has to be just fine enough. I just have to be okay enough with it, um, or satisfied enough by putting this out, because otherwise it might turn out to just be like, well, hey, I could have remembered worse. I could have remembered less. I could have um, gone on to really just uh, have a really stalling gap of where to go next. Like at least um, I had a decent amount of flow of things, even though also I'm still trying to figure out how the best way to remember everything. But if any, I'm just happy that I'm just to get content out. Really at the end of it, because like I was sick for the last couple days. So hopefully, whatever this content ends up being is a thing that people are going to be happy about. If not, then I'm like, okay, this is just another piece of content that I put out, and I'll put something hopefully better out later. Um, I apologize. Yeah, like I was supposed to probably do Dead Man's Wonderland, and instead I put this out. I will be getting to that next. Like this was just like, hey, here's I'm back. I'm doing this content. Um, because really I just like I saw this and I was like, okay, like for some reason it just there's something about it that just pushed me into I need to watch this. It was just a feeling, it was just a impulse, so I just went there. So my bad uh if this wasn't planned. Eventually I'll get back on schedule and I'll start covering a lot of this stuff. This was just to kind of re-induct me back into the process again and doing this again. So uh I probably should have maybe have done Dead Man's Wonderland because I'd already seen that before. I'd seen a good chunk of that before. Uh, and it probably would have been easier, yeah, than this. But regardless, uh, I just decided to just do this. So with that said, I hope to get to that next. I will get to that next. As far as Power Rangers stuff is concerned, a little bit updated about that. No one's going to really care about an update of this. Um, yeah, I did figure out some way through Timu of getting a shirt that matches that Alien Ranger stuff. So I'm getting a shirt shipped out. It's probably going to take up until maybe the early parts of April. So that might take a week or 2 weeks from now. Um, but I am going to get a shirt that matches Alien Rangers for Power Rangers. So I might go on and I might give a little bit of delay to that also, just so that way, because that sure will be coming any certain number of days from now. It'll be coming at the beginning of April at some point. So that's exactly saying when this is coming out, but it doesn't matter. This is at the very tail end of this video. So I'll go on and I'll have that shirt, which is great because at least then I'll have everything at least prepared up until in space. And then after that, all bets are off. I'm also kind of getting a little concerned of what Timu is really doing, um, because it honestly feels like whatever that they're kind of doing feels like they're probably going to phase it all out soon, or like I'm looking at an app that doesn't fully work on the day to day, or also is just very janky and doesn't seem to work properly every day. So I'm kind of getting concerned about that. I'm kind of getting to the point of like like, am I going to be able to obtain these items? I don't know anymore. Uh, so if that completely goes, that is going to be really painful to have that kind of outlet to now be snuffed out, and for me to just go on and be like, well, yeah, I guess like whatever I have left to figure out of a cosplay closet thing here, like that's what I'm gonna have to do for the rest of my time on this YouTube channel until I can figure something out and pull another rabbit out of the hat here and just come up with some magic trick of like, okay, here's how I can go on and be able to get all of these shirts that I need for all of these thumbnails and all these clothing things that I need for these thumbnails, how I can get them if it won't be from Timu, uh, which I don't think that's gonna happen. So uh, yeah, so we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'll whatever happens happens. Um, I'm hoping I'm wrong about that. I'm hoping I continue to do this process that I've been doing for so long, and I hope that I can obtain a good chunk of the items that I need for either just my own personal use or stuff for thumbnails. Like there's some stuff that I just got actually just for fun, like stuff that I felt that I've always ever wanted to get. There's some stuff that is on Timo. I'm like, man, this is so cool. I'm so happy that they have these shirts there. I hope to in the future obtain them. Like there's like shirts that are like on Timu. There's like the Future Foundation Spider-Man. There's uh, all these kind of movie and comic book shirts that I've always ever kind of wanted, and like, cool, I can get them there. There's stuff that would tie into Resident Evil things. There's stuff that ties into Transformers. That stuff that ties into Power Rangers. There's all kinds of stuff that ties into a number of things that I can do future content for, or also just stuff that I can uh, get that'll eventually tie into some content that I've been doing in the past. Like I've been really doing a lot of adjustments on thumbnails, even though that really is stupid. But there's people that go on and give me the advice of like, well, hey, just change a thumbnail. Like if anything, just have fun with it. Just changing a thumbnail can have the content do surprisingly a little bit better. It may not be like for me, it might not be like a ton of views over time, but like it's something. Um, it's better than nothing. So me just adjusting thumbnails is just because I'm like, you know what, I could probably do this a little bit cleaner. I can do it a little bit better. There's a lot of stuff where I just kind of chucked a lot of thumbnail pictures on, and I'm like, I'm looking at it now and just like, man, this looks stupid. Uh, but I think there's a lot of people that don't care about thumbnails anymore. I think that's a whole just kind of past thing. Um, that now it's like thumbnails aren't going to change a channel anymore. The profile picture or profile banner is going to change a picture. Like if anything, like it's either people like you or people don't. So or there has to be something that visually attracts them to you, and I probably don't have that, but it's okay. Um, because at least I'll still have fun with whatever this process is, and I hope to try to continue to be a good person. Um, I hope to find people that are going to be good people and nice people also, and hope we can continue to do this. Hope this continue can be done in a very positive, productive, whatever. I don't know. I'm just getting more and more vague words. So thank you for watching this bit of content. However you're going to digest it, because you might just take 10 seconds and or 5 seconds and just which that seems to happen. But like there was one content where like the average view was like a minute. I'm like, wow, I've done it. Woo! I've gotten retention for a minute. Woo! Yeah. Um, at least people are doing that. At least people are taking that time to watch the video at least for the first minute. And maybe get enough out of that. That's fine. Because I'm gonna get out of here before this gets over 2 hours. So goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.